What's real? Who am I? And why are we even here? For thousands of years, these are the questions that have kept humanity's greatest thinkers up at night. In this explainer, we're going to take a whirlwind tour through some of the most powerful answers philosophy has to offer, from ancient India all the way to modern Europe, to see how we've tried to make sense of it all.
So, let's start with the absolute biggest question of them all. What is reality? Is this world we see and touch the whole story? Or is it maybe just a shadow of some deeper, hidden truth? This one question, right here, is the starting block for so many philosophical adventures.
And, of course, once we start questioning the world out there, we can't help but turn inward and question the person doing the asking. Who is this I that's at the very center of your experience? Are you just a bundle of memories and thoughts, or is there some essential core, a real you that stays the same through everything?
Now, philosophy offers a whole landscape of answers, and we're going to explore it by looking at 4 key areas. First, what is reality? Then, who are we? After that, how do we know anything? And finally, what's the whole point of life anyway?
All right, let's dive right in with that first pillar, reality. We're going to start in the East with a concept that sees everything, and I mean everything, as one single unified whole.
In Indian philosophy, this ultimate reality is called Brahman. Now, don't think of it as a person or a god in the sky. Imagine a vast, endless ocean. Everything you can possibly see, the stars, this planet, you, me, we're all just temporary waves on the surface of this one single underlying reality.
Okay, but that brings up a pretty obvious question. If it's all just one big ocean, why do we see a world full of separate, individual waves? Well, that's where the concept of Maya comes in. Maya is like a powerful illusion, a cosmic magic trick that makes us see a world of different things, hiding that unified reality of Brahman from us.
Now, Western philosophy has this really fascinating split on the exact same question. You've got the idealists who argue that consciousness or ideas are what's truly real, the physical world is just a side effect. And then you have the materialists who flip that completely. They say, nope, only physical matter is real, and all that stuff like consciousness, that's just what your brain does.
So you see how these huge ideas about reality lead us right into our second big question. Because if the world is just an illusion, or just matter, or just a bunch of ideas, well, what does that make us? Let's take a look at the nature of the self.
Heading back to Indian thought, we find the idea of the Atma. This is your true self. It's not your personality, not your job, not your memories. All that stuff changes. The Atma is the pure, unchanging awareness behind all your thoughts. The silent observer that's considered eternal and completely indestructible.
A really interesting parallel in the West is dualism, which you might know from René Descartes. It argues that your mind, your consciousness, your soul, is made of some kind of non-physical thinking stuff that's totally separate from your physical body. This, of course, created a giant philosophical puzzle. How does a non-physical thought make your physical arm move? It's a question people still argue about today.
And this all leads to one of the most profound and frankly mind-bending statements in all of philosophy from the Advaita Vedanta school. I am Brahman. This is a radical claim. It says that your individual self, your Atma, isn't just a part of that cosmic ocean of Brahman, it is the entire ocean. That feeling you have of being a separate little drop? Well, that's just Maya, the illusion, doing its thing.
We've just touched on some absolutely huge ideas about reality and who we are. But it's totally fair to ask, how could anyone possibly know if any of this is actually true? And that brings us to our third pillar, the search for knowledge itself.
In the West, this question created a massive divide. On one side, you had the rationalists, who believed the true knowledge comes from pure reason and logic, like figuring out a math problem just in your head. On the other side were the empiricists, who said, no way. They argued we're all born as blank slates, and all real knowledge has to come from what we can see, hear, and touch in the real world.
And then you have the skeptics, who kind of stand off to the side and challenge everybody. The skeptic asks, how can you be sure of anything? I mean, couldn't your senses be tricking you? Isn't it possible this whole thing is a dream? They argue that the only truly wise position is to just admit we can't be certain about absolute truth.
But Indian philosophy offers a third option, one that's different from both pure reason and sensory experience. It's called jnana. This isn't knowledge you learn from a book or a lecture. It's a direct, intuitive realization, a kind of aha moment where you directly experience the fact that your own self, the Atma, and the ultimate reality, Brahman, are one and the same.
So,
We have a world, we have a self, and we have different ways of trying to know things. That leaves us with the biggest question of all, the one that really defines how we live our lives. What are we supposed to do? What is the purpose of being here?
For many Eastern philosophies, life is understood as samsara, this endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. And, importantly, this isn't seen as a good thing. It's more like being stuck on a cosmic Ferris wheel of suffering, and the main goal of life is to figure out how to get off the ride.
So how do you break the cycle? Well, Indian thought gives you a kind of roadmap. You live your life according to your dharma, which is your moral duty and right way of living. This ensures you create good karma, that universal law of cause and effect. And if you do this long enough and well enough, you can finally achieve moksha, which is the ultimate liberation from the whole cycle of suffering.
And one of the main ways you walk this path is through yoga. Now, we often think of yoga as just physical exercise, but traditionally, it's a deep mental and spiritual practice designed to do exactly this, to quiet the mind and help you realize that unity that leads to liberation.
The Western tradition comes at this through the field of ethics, which basically just asks, what's the right way to live? And this leads to all sorts of different answers. Should we follow a strict set of moral rules? Or maybe try to create the most good for the most people? Or is it all about becoming a virtuous, good person yourself?
And this brings us to one last really stark contrast in Western thought. On one side, you have teleology, which is the idea that the universe and you have a built-in purpose. There's a goal you're meant to fulfill. But on the other side, you have existentialism, which makes the kind of scary but also really freeing claim that there is no pre-written purpose. You just exist, and then it's totally up to you to create your own meaning through the choices you make.
And just like that, our journey comes full circle. From the oneness of Brahman to the radical freedom of existentialism, we've seen how philosophy just dives right into the deepest questions of our existence.
So what we've really seen here are a series of epic debates, right? It's the tension between a single spiritual reality and a world of pure matter, between having an eternal soul and having a self you have to build from scratch, between having a preset purpose in life and having to invent one for yourself. And there are no easy answers here.
Which means the final question isn't for the great philosophers, it's for you. As you think about all these powerful ideas, a single cosmic reality, a self you have to create, a path to liberation, which ones stick with you? Which ideas challenge you? Or maybe even comfort you? Or just inspire you to see your world in a completely new way?